Let's first start with some statistics about Active Directory. Active Directory is being used by more than 12.8 million organizations across the globe, and 95% of Fortune 1000 companies, which is a list of companies that make the most money, use it too. And out of all of Okta's customers, a cloud identity platform such as Azure AD, only 17% of them don't use Active Directory. And out of these, 30% of the companies have less than 250 staffs. As these companies grow, adopting Active Directory becomes an essential.
Let's take a look at the problems that we are trying to solve. Problem number 1. Enumeration of an Active Directory requires multiple tools, and there are many tools out there that is capable of enumerating the Active Directory. This brings about the trouble of having to jump between different terminals in order to run the different tools, the different commands. This ties into the next problem, problem number 2. Each of these tools have their own syntax, requirements, alongside dependencies that has to be fulfilled before enumeration can even take place. Now, the third problem. Each of these tools have their own unique output format. So to manipulate this data then becomes more challenging. As usual, we have to take into account the different output format from the many tools. And then lastly, with these many tools, there's bound to be many output to analyze. This output from the different tools will first have to be saved and then accessed individually. So all these factors accumulated takes up a lot of time, time which can be used for other purposes. Now, this brings us to our objective, which is to create a solution that is an all-in-one package, a solution that provides automation of repetitive tasks, something that is simple and intuitive to use, and also something that provides standardized output. Then lastly, something that lets the user find and access information quickly. So how are we going to do that? Let me introduce you to the main attraction, ADAT. ADAT incorporates a huge variety of tools such as crackmac exec, auto recon, and as many more tools as you can see on the screen. It comprises of two main functionality, the first being the scanning portion of ADAT, and the second being the report generator portion of ADAT. We'll be covering both of these in much more depth later on in the presentation. So, alongside other smaller features, if you are using Kali Linux as your pen testing OS of choice, you'll be able to use our quality of life one-click installation script that installs all dependencies and loads all configuration of ADAT with just a single click. So, before I go more in depth, let us take a step back and understand how ADAT operates through this flowchart. ADAT contains two scanning scripts, both of which comprise of different bundles of open source tools that operates together in order to give the best result for each level, L1 and L2. We'll be talking a little bit more about these two levels in just a bit. All the output from L1 and L2 will be passed using our custom parser and get converted into the JSON data format. The report generator portion of ADAT then takes in this JSON data and generates our beautiful HTML report, in which you will see later on as well. So from here, very simple, we just go over here and copy the link. So we get the link, we can go over to the Kali machine, place it over here, do a git clone, and then we can paste the link here, and we will be able to clone the repository. So I'm not going to do it now because I already have the directory previously cloned over. So over here on the left side, you can see a graphical view, and on the right side, there is the terminal view. So this is just to give a better representation. So clicking into this directory, I'm already in the project ADAT repository. You can see right off the bat, there's a few files. So how do we set it up? Don't have to worry, don't have to fuss too much. Just all you have to do is to go into the config folder. So I will cd into the config directory as well on the right side. And then you can see the files corresponds. So there's a setup.py over here. So what the pen tester will have to do is to just run the setup file. So I will run the setup file as well, Python 3 setup.py. So I'll run it, and then as you can see, it will start to install the dependencies. So it will clone everything that is required into the directory, and you can see that some of the requirements is already fulfilled. So it starts cloning things such as helper files that is within the script of the tool, also things such as scanners that we use, so open source tools, third-party tools that we incorporate into ADAT. So we'll start off with L1. Just like any other Python script, you'll run the enumeration script by typing Python. I'm going to show you the additional side features that we implemented for this. So let me just run through the help option. You can see that we actually have the netscan available. So how we want to run this, right? Very simple. Put in the netscan flag and supply netscan flag and supply the IP address. 0/24. So it will send through the subnet based on the subnet mask that you provided, and then it will determine two things. So one, which hosts are alive, and then two, which hosts, right, are suspected to be a domain controller. So within the subnet, there could be multiple domain controllers, and then you also pick it up. So just give it a little bit. So as you can see at the screen, how to interpret this output is actually pretty simple. So you can see that there's a host, and then this is 0.1, 0.2, 254, and 135. So all these are available hosts that is online within the subnet. But as you can see, for 134 in particular, there is this DC sign over here. So these 3 ports was identified to be up for that particular system. And just so happens these 3 ports are the LDAP. So for most servers out there, this is a very high likelihood for this to be a domain controller. It's a high telltale sign to assume that this is a domain controller. So whether or not this is a domain controller, we'll perform the scans to try to enumerate it out afterwards. Now, similarly for L2, the running of the script is also very simple. Just type in Python 3, put in L2 enumeration.py. We'll just start things off by going to show you the help menu. So this is the help option. You can see there's a few things. The first one is the user. So -u, -p. So these two is for the users to input the credential for this credential-based scan. So this could be a single username, and a single password. So these two have to exist together. Or you want to keep a record of a password that you're going to keep on using, you can instead choose to use the credential.txt. So this is a text file that contains both the username and the password. This added functionality allows you to not only put a reusable password and username pair, you can have multiple pairs of this, and then you can run scans with multiple credentials. Following that, we have the -ss and the -sp. This is the shares and the pattern. Once again, these two have to work in tangent together, and this will enable the feature of share spidering. The shares.txt indicates the drive that we want to scan for, so it's the specific drive of interest.
Each of the user credentials we use for our L2. So right here, it links to all our summary page. So let's dive into summary report administrator. So again, if you open the summary tab, you'll see that you a lot of information here. So we separated each of the information into different categories and cards so that it's easy to navigate and ingest all this data. One thing that was missing just now was the users tab. The users tab earlier on in L1 was empty because we couldn't get any information. So it showed something like no users found, a message like that. But because we are using a valid user credential for L2, we are able to get a full list of the 411 users in our testing environment that we set up. So while browsing the All-Tools output just now, the tables are actually not formatted correctly, and sometimes you have to scroll vertically. But in this case, our users page is very neatly organized, and it has a couple of powerful features to make your life easier. For example, firstly, we have the pagination at the bottom. So the users page is actually paginated, and you can select how many rows you want to display each page. There's also column visibility. So let's say I viewing the users page and I notice that home directory and description doesn't contain a lot of useful information. I can just go ahead and bring down this column visibility and hide it. Just like that. So that I only see information that I want to see. Similarly, if I say, let's say I scroll and I want sensitive to appear beside my password not required, I can just drag the columns to reorder them. And this configuration applies, so I can similarly scroll here and my password and sensitive and visit through the pages, and the configuration will still be the same. So let's go right ahead and refresh the page to restore the information. Let's talk about our search feature. So let's start with the global search, which is your powerful replacement for your regular Control F, because it searches the entire table across all columns. So let's say I'm searching for admin. I get the normal administrator default account in the name section, but I get another user account here. If I scroll further to the right side, I can see that this user was awarded with a title of administrator. And I wouldn't have found this out if I just have searched the name column. So of course, we have our column search if we want to conduct more targeted searches. Moving on, we have our search pane, our powerful filtering utility. Search pane provides an overview of categorical columns and what information they have. For example, if I go to title, I can immediately see in this company what types of people are there, how many purchasers are there, officers, scientists, engineers. And let's say I want to filter, I can apply multiple filters. I can click accountant to narrow down to just the 20 accountants right here. And in accountant, search pane also intelligently updates the other columns. So in accountant, I can see here how many accountants are in Ang Mo Kio. I can see that there are currently 5 accountants in Ang Mo Kio. And if I scroll down, yeah, just 5 accountants in Ang Mo Kio. I can do a shift and click Ang Mo Kio to just see the 5 accountants from Ang Mo Kio. And just like that, down to 5 entries. If I'm happy with what I see now, I can export my current data set by copying CSV or to Excel to do some use Excel search and filtering by itself also. Okay, now let's take a step back and go back to the summary page. While I'm browsing the summary page, I see that there are some spider files over here. So to check out what spider files are there, I go back to the All Tools output. I visit the first tab and see if there are any spider files here. Groups, domains, computers, users doesn't tell me any spider files. So I move on to the second tab, CrackMathExec. The bracket tells me that, oh, I found my spider files over here. And when I open this, I'm immediately presented with all my spider files, document1.txt, which we earlier specified when running our L2 script. And that's how easy it is to navigate and browse the output of ADAT.